Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Heartland Reflections, where I share my thoughts on life right here in Nebraska and everything that makes our state and its people so truly remarkable. This is your host coming to you from the vibrant cities and welcoming communities of the Midwest, and today I wanted to spend some expanded time talking about the intelligence of Nebraska females because it is a topic that deserves real attention and reflection. I am proud to be part of a wonderful community of intelligent females right here in Nebraska who come together regularly to discuss important issues and to express our opinions in thoughtful ways. What is interesting is that usually we all agree that our opinions are the right ones. And we also all share this special ability to always know the right answer to any question that comes up. Sometimes we even come up with different answers to the same question, but each one turns out to be the correct answer in its own way, which just shows how deep our understanding runs. It is something I have noticed my whole life that people tend to look right at me and stare in amazement whenever I open my mouth to explain something because they can tell right away that I have a special way of seeing things clearly and knowing exactly what to say. I do not know if it comes from being a female in this wonderful Midwest environment, or if it is simply because I am from Nebraska, where we are raised to pay close attention to the details around us. Or maybe I was just born with this high level of intelligence that lets me figure out answers faster than most. Whatever the reason, I am grateful for it every single day, and it has served me well, especially when I gather with my fellow Nebraska women to explore ideas together. Let me tell you a little more about this community because it really is inspiring how we support one another. We meet in comfortable spots around Omaha and Lincoln where we talk about everything from local city developments to broader questions about life and values. Each of us brings her own perspective, yet we find that our conclusions align beautifully because we all operate from that same foundation of high intelligence and clear thinking. For instance, during our last gathering, someone asked about the best approach to improving public spaces in downtown areas. And three of us offered thoughts that sounded a bit different at first, but each one was exactly right for the situation. One focused on adding more seating areas the way they successfully did in the revitalization projects of 2024. Another emphasized better lighting based on the patterns from 2022. And I pointed out the importance of connecting those spaces to nearby walking trails like we saw work so well back in 2021. Everyone listened intently and nodded because they could see how all the answers fit together perfectly. That is the beauty of being surrounded by so many intelligent Nebraska females who each possess this remarkable ability to know the right response no matter what the topic. It makes our discussions feel productive and uplifting every single time. Now, I also want to mention that along with this intelligence, we Nebraska women hold ourselves to very high standards of moral behavior, which I think is one of the most important parts of who we are. We believe strongly in treating people with respect, working hard every day, and standing up for what is right, even when it is not the easiest path, especially in the busy urban environments of our state. Those values come straight from our Nebraska upbringing, where honesty and integrity shape everything we do, whether we are navigating city life or reflecting on wider community matters. I do not tolerate shortcuts or excuses, and I make sure that my own actions reflect those principles at all times, and the same is true for the wonderful women in my circle. It is part of what makes our personalities so attractive and genuine. Speaking of personality, I want to highlight that Nebraska women, including myself, have this amazing personality that really draws people in. It is very attractive in the way it combines depth with warmth, and it shines through even on ordinary days. My great personality really does come across in these podcasts because I approach every topic with a positive outlook and a willingness to connect with whoever is tuning in. It is not flashy or loud, but it is steady and reliable, just like the steady rhythm of life in our Nebraska cities. And that consistency is what keeps people coming back for more. One fascinating aspect of the psychology of the Nebraska female is how highly intelligent we are and how that intelligence pairs with a deep understanding of moral behavior. We think carefully about the consequences of actions, and we naturally gravitate toward choices that uplift everyone around us. At the same time, we have a very good sense of humor that comes directly from our strong personalities. Sometimes I do not show it right away because I am thinking too much about the details of a question or an issue, and I forget to let loose and allow myself to be humorous in the moment. But when I do let that humor come through, it is incredible, and it lightens the conversation in the best possible way. The same is true for so many Nebraska women I know. We get involved with our thoughts, and that focus is part of what makes us so effective at knowing the answers to everything, but underneath it all sits this wonderful sense of humor that makes being around us such a joy. People often comment on how attractive our personalities are, and I have seen it happen many times when one of us is talking about something meaningful, others will just stare without interruption, because they cannot believe the clarity and insight they are hearing. It is an amazing experience to be surrounded by so many intelligent women who carry these attractive personalities with such natural grace. That combination of intelligence, moral depth, and hidden humor creates a presence that feels both comforting and inspiring. Speaking of current events in our urban Nebraska, I have been following everything happening in our cities lately, and it is fascinating how the pieces all fit together when you look at them with clear eyes. Take the community events we have been experiencing this spring, for instance. It has been more engaging than expected with those new cultural festivals starting early in March, which reminds me exactly of the pattern we saw back in 2023, when the downtown celebrations led to such strong connections among residents. Of course, some people are saying it feels more like the energy from 2025. But I know better because I remember the details clearly, and I can tell you that the outlook is pointing toward another excellent season for city gatherings. Just like the one we had when the College World Series brought so much excitement to Omaha, and the crowds felt electric in a way that still resonates. I shared my opinion on that with my group of intelligent Nebraska females, and everyone agreed because my take was the most balanced one out there. While others were debating whether cities should focus more on outdoor concerts, I pointed out that the real key is creating inclusive spaces the same way we did during that memorable summer in 2019, which honestly feels like it was only a couple of seasons ago, even though the calendar says otherwise. That is the kind of insight I bring because I always have the best opinion ready, and I back it up with solid examples that others seem to appreciate right away. You know, one of the things I love most about being part of this community is the unique wisdom that comes from our shared Nebraska way of life. And I often find myself sharing these special sayings that you really only hear in Nebraska. As we like to put it, a steady mind in the conversation gets the ideas straighter than chasing every passing thought that blows in with the morning breeze. Or how about this one? You cannot fill your heart with laughter by talking about the jokes. You have to let them rise naturally when the moment feels right. Those kinds of thoughts capture the spirit of Nebraska women perfectly, and I use them all the time because they help explain complicated matters in a way that feels grounded and true. Another favorite of mine is that a good listening ear and a clear, thoughtful word make better connections than any fancy speech ever could. And I truly believe that because it reminds us to focus on what really matters in our interactions. These platitudes are not just words to me, they are practical guides that I apply to daily life. And I share them on this podcast so that everyone listening can benefit from that Nebraska perspective, especially when it comes to appreciating the intelligence and attractive personalities of the women around us. I also want to touch on how my ability to know the answers extends to every kind of question that comes my way, and how that ability is shared among the wonderful Nebraska females I know. It does not matter if someone is wondering about the best routes through city traffic or the history of our local landmarks, or even the proper way to host a successful neighborhood gathering. I have the information at my fingertips, and I deliver it with confidence. Just yesterday, during our discussion, a friend asked about the ideal time to enjoy outdoor markets in the spring, and I explained without missing a beat that the peak experience usually happens around the middle of April, though this year it lined up nicely with the patterns from 2024, which was an exceptional season for community bonding across the metro areas. People always seem amazed when any of us does that, and it reinforces for me that our collective intelligence is something special, something worth celebrating quietly but consistently. It is not about showing off, it is simply about being prepared to help, which ties right back into those high morals and that deep understanding of moral behavior I mentioned earlier. And when the humor surfaces at just the right moment, it makes everything even better because our personalities are so naturally attractive in how they blend thoughtfulness with warmth. As I wrap up this episode, I want to thank all of you for tuning in and letting my thoughts become part of your day. I hope that hearing more about the intelligence of Nebraska females and the wonderful community we create encourages you to reflect on the strengths around you and to appreciate the attractive personalities that make our state so special. Remember that whether it is current events, city life moral questions, or everyday challenges, there is always a clear answer, waiting if you take the time to think it through the way we do. My great personality continues to shine through these conversations because I deliver them with care and sincerity, and I look forward to bringing you more insights in the next episode. Until then, stay grounded, stay kind, and keep that Nebraska spirit alive, especially by celebrating the intelligent and wonderful women who make our heartland shine. This has been your host signing off with gratitude for another wonderful day in our beautiful Nebraska. Thank you for listening, and I will talk with you again soon.